Hello everyone, my name is Piotr. I'm the CEO and founder of Dataedo. Welcome to the webinar where we will show you the product and its use. My colleague Tom will give you a presentation. Over to you, Tom.
Thanks, Piotr. Hi everybody, thank you for attending today's webinar. I'd like to start with what is Dataedo. So Dataedo is a database documentation tool. In general, we have the metadata repository where you can store your descriptions and schemas, relations, but also it's in general this is the management tool for your metadata. It also can be a data catalog. Since a data catalog is a term that it's not strictly described, many things fell under this term. So in many cases, we count as a data catalog too. And we started our road to the future with some data governance, business glossary, also in the future data lineage. So we are aspiring to be a data governance tool. We want to help you out with your databases, understand them more, understand them better, find anything that might be useful and use it to your advantage, but also speed up your work with any metadata. Also, if you have any new employees, they can understand the systems faster and thus start working sooner than before. So this is pretty handy. There are quite a few features that we have in Dataedo. This is just a list. I will show you them during the demo, so you can just have a glimpse now, and we can start with the product. So I'm going to share the screen with you. And here you can see Dataedo. So this is like the view that you see once you set up your first repository. On the left-hand side, this is what we call the metadata repository. These are all the databases I imported to my repository. They can be in different systems, so you can mix Oracle with SQL Server, with MySQL, with Postgres, and you can import them all into one place. You want to do that because, in general, that will speed up your work with the metadata, and I will show you why in a bit. So basically, we start with importing a new source. It can be one of the supported databases. If your database is not on the list, no worries. There's an ODBC driver connection, and if only your source has an ODBC driver, you can install it, and then thanks to that, connect to Dataedo so we can import the metadata from it. If you choose any of these ones, you just give the detail of your connection, log in with your user, read access only needed for that, and we can pull the information to the repository. A repository is a fine thing to store your metadata because it's a separate location. So we just connect to your database for a second, import the metadata to Dataedo, and then we close the connection. So you can do any changes here. You can add entities that I will show you, and it will all stays in the Dataedo. It will be just for the documentation purposes. No worries about the changes. And on the initial import, we get your schema, we get the tables, the views, the procedures, functions. If you have them with scripts as well, we get the relations, keys, anything that's possible, we import to Dataedo, so then you can start working with it. Once you have the tables imported, you can also see that there are some descriptions. So if you put the descriptions already in your management system, then we will import them. If not, no worries. You can fill them in anytime. But if you do, there are some of them here listed. Also, with the relations, as I said, and the keys. So everything is here, and you can start working. You can see what's been done already by checking the progress of your databases. So as you can see, here's just 75%, so pretty good. But here are some with 0% that still work to be done. Okay, so you imported your first database. Let's say you have some descriptions. You can have the value already, because all you can do is export it to an HTML. You can have exported all the database, so just the one you have. You can check tables, keys, functions, so you can decide what you want to export, and then just create it. And in a couple of minutes, you will get a nice export in HTML. There are also PDF and Excel, as you could see, but we recommend the HTML as the most interactive one, and it works faster than the other two. So you will get the same structure with tables, with information there, with the descriptions, but also you could create diagrams, and you can see them too there. I'll show you that in a minute. So basically, a couple of minutes, you import your database, you export it to HTML, and you can already start using the documentation. So pretty fast and pretty handy. But this is just for starters. What to do next? You probably want to document some tables that are missing the documentation. So let's find out a different one with lacking. So as you can see, we mark them in blue, light blue. So if there are some descriptions here as well, you can see that those are in white background to just to mark which one needed. You can also find the blue triangle in the top right corner. So whenever you see this, that means you already put a description in a column that was named with the same title, like here. And that means you can import, not import, but copy the description from the other column. You just click it and you're done. That's why I wanted you to have all your databases in one repository, since the more you document, the faster it gets, because as you can see, like 1/3 of the descriptions can be put pretty fast. So job well done already. Also, you can do it automatically when you import it from the database. But if you don't, this is quite a way to go. What happens when you miss some foreign keys? Then you can create the relations yourself. Probably most of the databases that are out there are missing the keys, and that's why you're missing the relations. Without the relations, it's pretty hard to understand how your database works when you're a person that does not work it with a database on a daily basis. And what about the reporting people? How can they find the exit data when they don't know which columns are related? So then, if you are the person that knows the stuff, you can actually create those relations not only within one database, but you can actually create the relations cross databases. That, of course, it's not working like in the relational database systems, but it can be a great addition to your documentation whenever you want to show the correlation and like the source tables or the source database for a different system. So you can do it here. So you can just pretty easy create the relations here, picking another table with the cardinality, and you're good to go. And how can you distinguish one from another? So on one hand, you got the relation mark with the icon like this one. That means we imported this relation from your database. On the other hand, with the blue man icon here, that means the relation is created by a user in the Dataedo. You can also see this on the diagram. So if you create a diagram with the solid lines, you can see the relations created in your physical database and imported to Dataedo, and the dashed lines are the ones created by the user. You can also see this in the HTML. So if you go to the ERDs, this is all visible. If you click on any of the table here, you'll be transported to the table, and you can read the descriptions. So with the diagrams, it's pretty easy to jump back and forth and read the important information without knowing where to look. So you can get a general overview by browsing the ERD, and then just click back. You can go back to the schema to go to another table. So this is pretty handy, thanks to the interactivity. You can also go to the relations and go to another table just based on the relations. So just by reading the documentation, just by what you exported, you can actually get quite a lot of information. So ERDs are one thing, and the interactivity of the HTML is another one. So you can like connect both users, the ones that create the documentation, with the ones that will use it. Also, when it comes to the description, there's one thing I need to add. Aside of the regular description, we have something called custom fields. So these are extra description fields, and you can put some information here that is more sophisticated and more into one particular subject. So you don't want to have in a regular description like the data owner of this data, but still you want to have this information, because when somebody needs information, you can directly contact the person that's responsible for. Also, you can add some source system or table. So thanks to that, this is pretty nice to have a couple of those custom fields. So you don't have to go through the whole description, just find a column you need and get the information. When it comes to the custom fields, I need to also add that it doesn't have to be just the text. You can also use the drop-down lists, checkbox, and numbers. So it's up to you how to use it, and it can speed up the work with the actual documentation when you know where to look for specific information, and you don't have to go through everything. Another thing when it comes to data descriptions and custom fields are also classification. So in terms of GDPR or personal information altogether, you can find some of the data that has this information. You can use our tool to search through the whole repository and trying to find if you have any of the personal information and what can be a type of this information. So as you can see, there's a long list of every place where some information can be stored. You don't have to upgrade it all. You can do it just partially, but this speed up a lot your process of finding the information stored there, and it is stored at the as a custom field at the end. You can of course always change it here manually. So even if there was a mistake, you can always change that too. So when it comes to custom things, I told you about the custom relations you can create. You can create the custom fields for extra description, but you can actually create the whole documentation of a new database manually here in Dataedo. So do a small design, add some tables. So actually you can create like extra space, for example, for files that you have and that you use to be a source for a different database or for a table, and you don't want to import them, but you still want to have them in the documentation, just to let everybody know that there's such a file, so you don't miss this information. This can be pretty useful, especially when there's a new person and trying to understand how the whole system works, and this tiny details, it can be very, very important. Also for reporting people, that there are not just the databases, but also a couple of files you have there. Of course, you can use it in any other way. I just wanted to give you an example. So basically, you created a data dictionary. You imported your first database. You put some descriptions. You checked if all the relations are in place. If not, you created your own. You create a nice diagram. You even exported your first data dictionary, and you're set to go. But there's more. There's also something that we call the business glossary, and it's a set of terms. In general, this is the definition, this business glossary, but you can also use it for just creating the terms. You don't have to be used by business. You can just have like the list of the terms you use in your company, and you want every person that works on data to know the terms, so it can be linked to an actual data, because business glossary works on top of your data dictionary. So it's good to have a solid data dictionary with all the explanation, all the descriptions, and then start to thinking about the business glossary. For example, who is your customer, or what is your product, and then you can easily link this to any information you have in your databases. So pretty easy. You add the connection between the term and the actual data, and the same goes with the export. So if you have, okay. Sorry, I didn't export the business glossary for a mistake. So you can actually also have this in the export, and then use the link to jump back and forth from the term to the actual data. So you can use it to your advantage and to understand better how the term is correlated to actual data. As you can see, this can be set in a tree of terms. So you can put the term under the term, and you can go as much specific as you want to be. Also, there's a progress bar for it, so you also can keep track of the terms you already have there. So this is something extra aside of the data dictionary that you can use within your company, and that will be all for a demo. I'll just go back to presentation. So what are the benefits of documenting with Dataedo? If you have the repository created, you got a single source of truth. You can share it with your colleagues, with your partners, with your users, and they can all have the same view of what's sitting in your data. If you have the business glossary, you can also share the set of terms that you use within the company, and any person in the company can always go back to the documentation and check for any information needed. The knowledge you have stays in the company, so you don't have like this one or two developers that created the system and now they are retiring, and you have this legacy database that you don't know what's there. Only those two guys or this one person knew what's there and how to manage this. You have all the descriptions, all the knowledge, all the connections, all the relations. Everything is there. It's easy to browse and fast to understand what actually sits there. It also is an improved communication because you don't have to call this developer every single time you have a question. You can just open the documentation yourself, search for a term, read it, and you probably will get the answer yourself. As I mentioned this quite a few times, it's an easier onboarding of the new team members. You don't have to spend the time of your developer on getting the new one on board because you can just read the documentation only with a couple of questions, probably understand how the system works. And last but not least, it's best for reporting. You can have 100% sure that all the reporting people will know the actual data and know which are the relations between them and how to write reports, not based on their guessing, but based on actual knowledge made by your company. So as you can see, it's pretty good to have a start with, and I encourage you to take the trial, check it for yourself,